Hello developers, welcome to Elixir Pro. In this video I'm gonna teach you how to authenticate your APIs using Guardian. This is really awesome because I'm gonna teach you some tips that is very important to understand how Guardian works. So to start this application, I strongly recommend you to watch one of the videos of the channels is about genset tips, because I teach how to use genset, especially when you have unique constraints and validate format, update change, validate confirmation, some other stuffs, and also using the Argon tool to create a hash password. So I highly recommend you to watch this video, or you can download this application with in the GitHub and start the brand genset. Also, what you should do is creating some other brands like Guardian, and in this case merging with the genset. So let's start the code. So the first thing that we should do is install the Guardian. For installing the Guardian, it's really simple. In this case, in our application, you just need to go in mix.exs and create a new dependency using Guardian, and the version is 2.0, I guess, this one. So let's install the dependencies using mix.deps.get. Now it's working. And also, to create this application, you can start using the insomnia, and you can create some new users like this, and the password is 123123. So you can create a new route which is called session, and in this case we're gonna pass the email and password, just this informations, and let's start testing our application. So the first thing is, because I don't have this route inserted, so we're gonna start without the routes and understand each step that we are going to do. So let's see, our application is starting. I'm gonna close my camera. So let's start send some requests, and the first error is because we don't have this route. So let's start, go to the router.ex, and also I'm gonna create a session calling session controller. We don't need to use the accepts, and probably this is going to start to work, but also it's better to create the file for controller, like session controller. Also, I'm gonna delete all those code here and this part of code too. So the first thing is, let's understand what's happened when I just have the parameters here, and in our response is going to be some things like a status and just like a JSON typing a message, this case like okay. So other things that we should do is passing the params here to understand that our endpoint is working. Also, we don't need to use the accounts. So let's send some requests. I think we should restart our application. So let's send. Now we are receiving some informations, and also we are receiving the email and password. I guess we think passing this like parameters. Also passing the password here. And let's start doing some things. The first thing that we should do is create Authenticate. And this Authenticate we're gonna treat with some informations. And this is information, some things like okay, and user, and token. Also, this is going to be in guardian.authenticate, that we have to pass the password and the email. So let's using the with undo. Ours that's happening, we're going to return the JSON and okay. So now the first thing that we have to do is create this Guardian application. So let's create an alias, which is going to be in blog web auth Guardian. Let's create this file. So we are going to create this one in the folder auth, and the file is guardian.ex. So let's start creating this file. From this case, we can copy some things about the module, or maybe this information here, def module do. So the first things that we should do is create the function Authenticate, passing the email and password. Of course, all the time we are returning the OK token and OK user and token. So, but the first thing that we should do is some validations, and to create these validations, we are going to create a services for doing this. And the services we're gonna call about alias, which is in this case is blog accounts, because it's in this content test services session. Why this? Because we just want to split the responsibilities. So in this case, in session, we're gonna pass authentication to, which we are passing the email and password. This is the first step. So the first things that we should do, other things that we should do, it's like case, it's like OK user. We are going to return some things like OK, and this case user, and we still don't have token, so we're gonna put like some information that is not important to us. And case error is just like error unauthorized. I think this is going to be enough to us. So let's go to our accounts, creating folder services and session.ex. So in this file, we are just having just two validations. The first one is when we find the user, and if we don't find the user. If we find the user, we are gonna see that the password is valid. If it's valid, we are gonna return the user and OK. So let's go back to our Guardian, create the module, this. So let's create the Authenticate, pass email and password. And from this case, we have to use some informations like alias, a blog, accounts, user. Also, we need to use the blog and repo. So the first validation is that if the email is valid. So to create this validation, we can type repo and get by. We have to pass our structure. The field is email and the information is email. If case 2, in this case, is going to be like nil, you just return like error not found. Also, if it's returning a user, we are just returning like OK and user, but also we are just returning this if the password is valid. So to treat these informations, we are going to pass like user in argon2 verify pass. The second one is user dot password hash. So if we can use something like true or false, if to, we can returning okay user, else this is going to be like error unauthorized. I guess this is going to be enough to us. So to validate some of these informations, we can go back to our Guardian and let's see, I think that's working. Let's move to Authenticate. I think this is closing here. IO.inspect to understand what's happening here. So the first thing is valid informations. So of course I don't have a auth operation, so let's do it using the EX. So let's try to authenticate, and in this case this is everything is valid. So let's try passing an invalid password. So you can see that this is unauthorized, but also yeah, we don't have this information right now, so I'm gonna refactor this. But if you try again but with an invalid email, of course we're gonna receive other errors, but it's not found because the user was not found. So okay, let's keep this information valid, and let's go back to our Guardian. So the first things that we should do is validating that Authentications is using a valid email and valid password. So the second one that we should do is like creating the token. And to create the token, we can use some information about the user. So we can create a function called create token, passing the user. This function should be some of the things like private, create token, receiving the user, and we are receiving some things like let's understand more about the encode and sign, passing the user. Let's put a pipe here to understand more. So if you see, we are not having some informations, but in this case we have to use some guardians configurations. So we have to use the guardian here and OTP app. It's our application block, and now you can see that encode and sign, it's passing. So let's recompile the code. We are having some missing functions because we didn't implement some behaviors. So we are going to implement them, but let's understand what's happening. When we send the encode and sign, oh my god, just go back to section and remove this. Go back to Guardian. Let's recompile again. Of course, we're receiving some errors, but in this case, this is because we are not implementing the subject for token. So we're going to implement this. This is really easy and really simple. So subject for token, passing the user and claims. We just need to return like OK, and to string passing the user.id. It's just this that we need to do. So let's recompile. Of course, we have to implement other function, which is resource from claims, but this is important when we have to authenticate some routes. So let's try again. Let's understand what's happening. In this case, it's secret not found. This has happened because we didn't configure the guardian. To configure guardian, you have to go to the config.ex, and also you have just to passing the guardian module, which is this one. Go back to config, blog application, guardian module. Issue should be like the same name applications, and also you can pass in the secret key, which you can generate using the command mix guardian gen secret. So let's put the secret here, and now let's roll back to application. Xmix Phoenix server. Oh, let's see what's happening. Undefined function config. Compile our code. So let's try to send the request. Good, seems to work. And also you can see that it's returning some things like the Auth. The issue is the information that we put here. The sub is 13 because this is the idea of the user that we are using, the created. Also, you are receiving the JWT because I think this is the most important information to us from this case, because in Guardian you're returning the token, not the claims. We don't need the claims, and the user. And if you see this token in JWT, I'm gonna show it to you. So if you go to the JWT encoded, you can copy this JWT token, put here. You can see some informations, but this is an invalid signature. To do this signature valid, you have to pick this secret token key, go back to JWT, put this code, and the signature is valid right now. So this is why we are using this. So let's pick some information which is so important to us. If you see, we were receiving a tuple. The first step is OK, also token, and after we are receiving the claims, which is not important to us from this moment. So let's return OK, user, and token. This is what we have to return when we are using the OK and user. So other things that we should implement is because we have to do, I'm gonna do now, because this is going to be important when we are configuring some routes. So let's create the resource from claims, which we are receiving the claims here. And if you see here in claims, we are receiving the sub. So in sub, we have the claims here, and also we can pick this information, which is the user ID sub, and also we can use this information to return the user. So in this case it's claim, and we are receiving the ID. So let's use the accounts and passing the accounts get user. So I think this is going to be enough just to return the user, and this function can be very simple like this. So I think this function will be finished. Okay, so let's go back to our Guardian, but in this case I think we should create a pipeline to receive the authentications, because we have the process authentication. We are returning the OK user and token. If you go back to our session, you can see that we're receiving those informations to return. But in this case I'm not creating a template because we would spend a lot of time. So we can create some things like user, return the user, and token, return the token. I think this is enough to us from this case. So let's recompile our code. Let's go back to section and try again. And great, we're receiving that information. So the problem is I make some few mistakes here, because the second valid information is token. Okay, token claims, okay, but okay, user and token, sorry. Oh, this is correct. We see there. Copy date. Try it again. Not implemented. Yeah. The problem is we have to create the template because we're receiving the informations about mapping, so we have to map all those informations. From this case, I don't think that we need a lot of informations about. So let's think about a simple solution. Just from this example, I think we can use this session controller, render, passing the template, which is user JSON, and passing the user. I think this is enough. Okay, let's hold back. Now you can see that we're having the user and the token. So let's try to use other routes like post, for example. Okay, probably we don't have some posts, but this one it's good to test. So you can see that we can using all the routes successfully. From this case, we have to create a pipeline, and the pipeline is going to control the access. So the first things that we should do to create this pipeline, go back to router, and in the router we can create a pipeline which is called Auth, and the plug, we are creating some things in blog web Auth pipeline. So this is the router, and the route that show that you should be authenticated. I think it's going to be something in the scope, which is like those of these URLs. But also in our pipe through, we are passing the auth to here. I think this is enough to us. From this case, we don't have the file, so let's create a file here, which is pipeline.ex. From this file, we are gonna use some informations about, because we are using plugs, we are going to pass some informations like verify session, header, and ensure that the application, the user is authenticated. So let's define the module blog web of pipeline do. So in this case, we can use the Guardian plug pipeline. OTP app is block. Also module is going to be can use that. I think we can import using the alias here, and now you can pass in like Auth Guardian, and I don't think we have to create the error handler from this moment. Error handler. From this moment, I'm not creating the error handler, but the plugs that we should use, it's like a Guardian plug, verify session. The claims should be like type that we have seen before. Access, same one for verify header, it's very similar. Also, we are gonna use the plug.load resource, which is going to be allow blank. We just make sure that the user is authenticated, so we have to pass the Guardian plug ensure authenticated. So what's happening here? Right section. Let's see what's happening. Syntax. This is because the score. So if you remember, the routes to use the blog was working successfully without authentication. Let's try to list our posts. So now you can see that of course I tried to use the without the error handler, so let's create this one. Auth error handler. So let's create this file, handler.ex, which is very simple file. Def module blog of error, guess is error handler. So from this case, because we're going to use a lots of tools very similar with controller, it's better to use a controller model. From this case, we just have to pass a auth error, which we're receiving the connection, the type, reason, and some optionals. So in this case, we're just returning like connection, put RESP content type, like application JSON, and other things that we should do is send RESP like 4001 JSON, dot encode, passing an error to string and passing the type. Just this. I think this is going to be enough to us. What's the error? These are encode. We are having the error. We're having the type. Send recipe. Let's start the application. I guess it's going to be working now. So let's try to use also unauthenticated. Let's see if we can try to create other post is unauthenticated. So let's create a token. Go back to the index, Auth, better token, just passing the token. Let's try, and now you can see that everything is working. Hope you guys enjoyed in this tutorial. Give us your like and share with some of your friends, and hope you the next video. Bye bye.